In this video, we're going to review what has been learned from Unit 1, Lesson 10, and Lesson 11. In order to complete this lesson review, you will need your iControl student workbook and something to write with. If you do not have what you need at this time, please pause the video and press play when you are ready to continue. If you do not need to view all of the lessons in this video, feel free to skip to the lessons you need to view using the start times provided. First, let's talk about the relationship between brain skills and self-control. As we've learned from previous lessons, our brain skills include working memory, shifting, and impulse control. These brain skills can be applied in a variety of life situations. For example, you use working memory when you must remember the rules to a game. You use shifting when the principal suddenly walks up while you are talking to friends, and you shift between two ways of thinking. Finally, you use impulse control when you control the urge to push someone in line who pushed you first. Failing to use brain skills means failing to use self-control. You can imagine what might happen in a difficult situation, such as getting pushed in line, if you didn't use your brain skills. So let's practice identifying the brain skills that we might fail to use in real social situations. For each response, match the result to the brain skill you failed to use. Pause the video while you complete Handout 10.1. When you are finished, press play. In response 1, the brain skill they failed to use was working memory because the information does not hold. In response 2, the answer is impulse control because the person cannot go against the automatic response of running. The answer to response 3 is shifting because the person cannot switch the response after knowing the consequence will be worse. Now check your answers for scenario 2. Response 1 is working memory, response 2 is impulse control, and response 3 is shifting. Did you get them all correct? If you have questions, please feel free to ask your teacher. Next, we'll talk about why we need to do brain training lab games. I bet you get so frustrated sometimes that you feel it is hard to love these games. If you are frustrated a lot, congratulations! You are on a fast track to gain progress on self-control because brain training lab games are designed to help you get better at self-control, manage your thoughts, emotions, and actions, and improve your brain skills, working memory, impulse control, and shifting. Just like exercising a muscle can give you extra strength when you need it. When you use self-control, you have to make an effort because you're doing something that doesn't come automatically. In fact, you're trying hard to do the opposite of your automatic or natural reaction. Each of the brain training lab games should have been hard for you at first, but get easier with practice because you're getting used to not going with your automatic reaction. Next, I will briefly explain the specific brain skill practiced in each game. Think about what you do when you play Corsi. How does Corsi train your working memory? The green squares light up in a pattern or a sequence that you have to hold in your mind and then use to recreate the same pattern. Since the game requires you to hold and then use the information in your mind, it's a game that trains your working memory. Now, think about what you do when you play circle change. How does circle change train your shifting? One of the colored circles changes size, color, or position, and you try to identify the change as quickly as you can. Since the game requires you to think flexibly about different features of the circles and compare them across the screens, you're training shifting when you play circle change. Finally, think about what you do when you play letter grab. How does letter grab train your impulse control? The game requires you to stop yourself from pressing the space bar when the letter is an X. You have to overcome your automatic reaction and think before you act, so the letter game trains impulse control. In your workbook, find Handout 10.2. Now we're going to apply what we've learned about brain skills and self-control to everyday situations. We will only look at the first situation for Rayshawn. Ignore the letters in parentheses behind each response and the dashes at the bottom of the box. They are a part of Handout 10.2 that we are not going to be doing at this time. I'm going to read Rayshawn's situation to you. While I read, think about what brain skill Rayshawn used and which brain training lab game you could use to help improve that skill. Rayshawn wants to play ball with his friends, but knows he has to ask his mom for permission. She's on the phone and Rayshawn does not want to wait. His first impulse is to leave without asking permission and risk getting into trouble later. He thinks about this for a moment and then decides to wait and get permission. His mom says he made a good choice because he could have gotten grounded if he left without her permission. If you thought to yourself that Rayshawn used impulse control, you are correct. The letter grab game is used to help you improve your impulse control skills just like Rayshawn. Now, look at handout 10.2. In the box that says Rayshawn at the top, check off impulse control in the first column and check off letter grab in the second column. Now turn to the content questions for Unit 1, Lesson 10. Pause the video and take a moment to answer the questions. When you are done, press play. If you selected B for response 1, you are correct. Letter grab trains your impulse control. If you selected C for response 2, you are also correct. Self-control is not something that is automatic. Now we are going to review Lesson 11. You are going to practice self-control skills by listening to a role play that is like a real-life situation. Afterwards, pause the video and think about the questions on slide 11.2. What is the purpose for using self-control? What must the student be thinking about? How can he use his brain skills to have self-control? What brain skills should he be practicing? Now open your workbook to handout 11.2 and follow along as I read role play 2. Scene: after school at the lockers. Narrator: a group of friends are getting their things together to go home for the day. They all have a big test tomorrow. Student 1 really needs to do well because he failed the last test. His family said that if he doesn't bring his grade up, he'll be grounded for a month. Student 1: bye everyone. I gotta go study. Gotta ace that test tomorrow. Student 2: what? You're not coming with us? Student 3: yeah, we're going to the mall to grab a bite to eat and hang out. Everyone's going. Narrator: freeze. Let's think about what has happened so far. Should Student 1 go with friends to the mall or go home to study for the test? I know it might be hard to resist going with your friends, but Student 1 should go home and study so they can pass the test tomorrow and not get grounded. Let's finish reading the role play to see what Student 1 decided to do. Narrator: unfreeze. Student 1: awesome, sounds fun. Student 2: cool, you can just come with us. Let's go. Student 1: hold up. If I go with you guys, I won't get any studying done. That means I'll probably fail the test, and going to the mall today would mean not going out anywhere for a month, which isn't worth it. I'm going to have to pass. Student 3: okay, good luck, see ya. Narrator: Student 1 studies for his test. He gets an A and gets to hang with his friends another time. Let's look back at the questions on slide 11.2. What is the purpose for using self-control? What must the student be thinking about? How can he use his brain skills to have self-control? What brain skills should he be practicing? Now pause the video and take a few moments to think about the answers to the questions. Feel free to use the extra space on handout 11.2 to write down your answers. When ready to move on, press play to continue. It took a lot of self-control for Student 1 to resist going to the mall with friends. The student had to shift thinking from the negative cues given by friends and use working memory to remind themselves of the consequences that would occur if they failed the test because they were not prepared. They did a great job of practicing impulse control. Feel free to read scenario 1 and 3 on your own and discuss with your teacher how the characters in each role play handled the situation. Now turn to the content questions for Unit 1, Lesson 11. Pause the video to answer the questions. When you are done, press play. If you selected D for the first question, you are correct. If Nikki is using her impulse control, she should walk the other way and not let it get to her. If you selected A for the second question, you are also correct. If Jose is using self-control, he will practice every day after school, even if he doesn't feel like it. Thank you for taking the time to catch up on what you have missed in eye control. In the upcoming eye control lessons, we'll learn about more ways to strengthen our brain skills and achieve greater self-control.